Hello and welcome to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Rachael is a speaker, inspirational author, and an overcomer. As Rachael is walking through her own journey of grief, she's challenging others to persevere and overcome their own circumstances. Find out more at rachelflick.com. Here now is your host, Rachael Flick.
Hi friends, welcome back to this week's episode of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. It's so good to connect with you again, and I just want you to know that you are consistently in my thoughts and my prayers. And as we create this content and curate these stories of other overcomers, that you and your healing journey are primary on my heart. And I continually think about ways that we can support you as you grow in resilience and overcoming in your own story. I am excited to bring you a guest today. Her name is Kristen Johnson. I actually found her on her social media page on Instagram, The Resilient Widow. And obviously I'm passionate about resilience. And so I was eager to look at her story and could see that she is actively working out what it means to be a hope warrior and someone who puts one foot in front of the other in spite of heartache and loss and is radiant in the midst of it. And so Kristen lost her first husband in 2010 in the Air Force, and she has experienced 4 different cancer diagnoses. She has 4 kids, 2 step and 2 bio. Kristen, welcome to the Hopecast.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I love it. I'm like so excited for where this is going to go because I have no idea where it's going to go.
And that's the best, right?
I guess it will be. It will be the best because it'll be an exciting surprise for me, and you get to share some of the treasures found in darkness in your story. And
definitely.
You have that glow about you of someone that has done things and learned things that can only come through suffering and pain, and something about just seeing you even digitally and in the internet. I can see it on you. It's something really beautiful that you carry. So welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Rachael. That means so much to me. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Okay, so where do you feel like is a good place to start in your story? I'd love to know kind of how you met your husband. What's his name? You were diagnosed with cancer before you met or before you married him. So kind of like back us up and get us in there.
Yeah, I met my husband through a Bible study. He was stationed just 15 minutes outside of my hometown. We have a Air Force Base station. And I was invited to a local Bible study here that he was attending to kind of maybe meet this guy. He didn't know I was coming, but I knew I was coming with the intent to meet him. So it was kind of nice. I could just like slyly check him out a little bit and not feel too much pressure, which was really nice. And we met and kind of hit it off just that first. So that was July 18th, 2008, because dates are burned into my memory at this point. And we kind of just hit it off and started dating. I think the next week Bible study, we came together as a couple.
Okay.
So it was pretty quick.
Jumping in. Yeah.
Yes, very, very fast. He was 2 years younger. So I was 24 when I met him. So he was 22. And yeah, we just hit it off and started dating. I had no idea about the military life. That wasn't something I had experienced before. My grandpa was in the military growing up, but that didn't affect me at all or mean a whole lot. Unfortunately, it does now. It means so much more. But so, yeah, we were just young and in the faith and would go to Bible study and church together and pray together and just kind of really had a really solid foundation for what we hoped would turn into a marriage, of course. And then that's when we found out he was going on his first deployment to Iraq. And this was his first deployment ever. He had just entered the Air Force, so he was like a baby at this point. And he was going to Iraq, and he was a bomb squad technician. So they would kind of disarm all the roadside bombs and IEDs and all that stuff. So again, that sounded cool to me, but I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know the dangers kind of that came with it, I guess. And he went to Iraq, and we talked maybe once every 3 days. Long story short, when he was in Iraq, I got into a car accident that the steering wheel went into my abdomen. I was fine. I did break my passenger's nose, unfortunately, but she's fine. She's forgiven me. I was the driver. And I ended up going to the emergency room just to get things checked out. And when they did an ultrasound, they found kind of like a little marble of fat in my stomach unrelated to the accident and sent me to a specialist. So after going to see the specialist, they decided they want to get this marble of fat out of my body just in case. And when they got in there, it was connected to a huge kind of basketball-sized tumor. So
Wow.
I was intending kind of an outpatient laparoscopic surgery, like little Band-Aids, and I would go home, and I woke up with about 37 staples
A full
from my
zipper.
sternum to my belly button. Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
And was shocked and found out it was cancer. And it was a pretty rare cancer that's very common in older African American gentlemen, which was not me at all.
Yeah.
I was
That's
20,
unusual for you.
23 at the time when I was diagnosed. 23 or 24. I forget. It all runs together. Young 20s.
What kind of cancer was that?
It's called liposarcoma. So it's a cancer of
Okay.
your fat cells, which is often found in people's thighs or forearms. And I happen to be growing it in my abdomen right near my abdominal aorta. So not where you want anything growing. That's not supposed to be there. Yeah, so I had the surgery and I started chemo all while Dan was in Iraq.
Wow.
He went on some pretty dangerous missions, but he was amazing. He would try to call every chemo day is what I called it. And he would check in and he would try to FaceTime me if I was in treatment, and I was doing chemo, and it was relatively easy. It sounds crazy. I didn't lose my hair. I would have a few days where I felt kind of crummy. I was still doing my job. I was working as a children's program coordinator at a recreation and parks department here in my town. And yeah, I missed a few days of work, but it was relatively a smooth diagnosis. That sounds crazy. And after the surgery that I had, where I got the zipper, and then a little bit of chemo, I was kind of cancer-free, essentially, with no evidence of disease. NED is what they call it. And actually, he was able to come home from Iraq the day before my last cancer treatment. So he got to sit with me in the chemo chair. I got to ring the bell, do all the things that you do when you finish treatment. He took my family out to dinner, which was so sweet. And yeah, it was really a celebration having him home safely. It was 6 months and then 1 month of training. So we had been apart 7 months. And now I was cancer free, and it just felt like kind of our time, our beginning. We got to really kind of dive in. So he came back in September of 2009, and then he proposed to me on Christmas Eve in front of all my family in 2009. And I was so excited. Yeah, I had a ring that I knew I wanted, so we kind of had talked about it a little bit. It wasn't just this huge surprise, but it was so fun. We were ready. We were doing everything the right way. We were putting God first in our marriage, which was huge, in our engagement. And yeah, we planned a wedding, and it was so fun, and we did it pretty quickly. We knew we wanted to get married quickly, so we planned a June wedding. So that was less than 6 months to plan a wedding. And he was supposed to deploy to Afghanistan probably in like February. So we were like, okay, we're going to have like over a year together from engagement to his deployment. We found out pretty quickly that someone had injured themselves, and he was going to leave 6 weeks after our wedding. And it was devastating. We had moved in together. After our wedding, we did everything right. We didn't live together before marriage. So we had a beautiful wedding. It was unbelievable. It was the most beautiful day. And then we barely unpacked our wedding gifts. We hadn't unpacked some of them. And he left for Afghanistan pretty abruptly and pretty quickly. We got married at the end of July, he left. July of 2010, he left right after our wedding.
Yeah, that is so quick.
And, when you're flying to Afghanistan and Iraq, you kind of get stuck sometimes on the East Coast waiting for a certain kind of plane to take you over. So it was just God's plan. And I truly believe that he got stuck on the East Coast for 10 days in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I flew out there. I told my work I hurt my back. Sorry if you're listening. I lied. And I just had
They'll probably forgive you now. Yeah.
All right. I just got married. I used all my time for a honeymoon, everything. And we went and spent like 9 days together in North Carolina, and it was so beautiful. We were newlyweds. We were 23 and 25. We were so young. And yeah, it was some of my favorite days with him. We're just laying on the beach or sitting in the hotel room having pizza because he had a meeting or something. But it was really special. It was our time together.
And those ended up being your last days
the
together.
last time. Yeah.
Oh, whew.
You know, and I hate to, I cannot see the future, but I had a feeling that goodbye was different. Whether he was going to be injured, whether maybe it was going to get extended to a longer tour, I just felt like it felt bigger and heavier than other goodbyes we've done. So I got on the plane and he, you know, kissed me goodbye, and I watched him as long as I could until I turned a corner, and then we parted ways. And he left the next day. He hopped on the plane the next day for Kandahar, Afghanistan, and it was a different deployment right off the bat. We were talking maybe once a week. He would often go into something called calm blackout, which means he could not write, he couldn't call, and that's because usually there was a death and they were notifying the family, and that calm blackout was so that the family didn't find out from someone else before they, you know, heard it from the military.
We
so
need
he would
that
tell me
in law enforcement because
I can't imagine.
Notification is crazy. Yeah,
I can't
that
imagine.
Would be wise.
My best friend lost her father. He was a line of duty police officer as well. But so yeah, every now and then he could get to it quickly and just say, "Calm blackout, love you," and then I wouldn't talk to him for like a week because I knew. It's like I wanted to know it was for that reason, but I also didn't, because it's like, oh my gosh, someone's going through the worst time of their life.
Yeah.
So he had called me after a calm blackout and said it was one of his buddies that I actually got to know in North Carolina, because their family did the same thing. They came and visited one of the buddies that he met up with there, and his name was Mikey, and Mikey had been killed. And Dan, my husband's name was Daniel. I don't even know if I shared that, but Dan had to carry Mikey's body onto an airplane to send him back to the United States. And Dan said that was the absolute hardest thing he's ever done. He said it was awful. It was terrible. And he was just devastated. Mikey was 23, same age.
Gosh.
And Mikey, I believe, died September 18th. So Dan did that. And then October 2nd, Dan called me, which I hadn't talked to him in a week. And I was working at a big event, and we prayed together and said, "I love you and talk to you soon." And that was our last phone call together, was on October 2nd. It was quick, unfortunately, because like I said, I was at an event, but we prayed, we said, "I love you." We kind of made sure it was a nothing left unsaid relationship. We never held back feelings, emotions. Our emails are the corniest things you've ever read in your life, because we were just pouring our love out so that there would be no words left. So that was October 2nd. And then October 5th, he was killed in action. And that started a whole journey, which you do know all too well, but my life changed that day, 100%. And
oh man,
yeah, it was terrible. I was in a work meeting, and my office mate came in and knocked on the door and said, "Kristen, your parents are here." And she was white as a ghost.
Ooh.
And part of me knew in that moment, there's no reason my parents would be at my job. There's no reason.
The knock at the door, right? We're always waiting for that.
And I walked in my office, and I was just kind of like, what do you need? Meaner than I should have been, because I'm like, just tell me what happened. And my dad just said, "Get your belongings. Dan died." And I just fell.
Ooh.
I fell to the ground, and we were all crying. It was terrible. I remember the drive home. They drove me home in their vehicle, and I just kept saying, no. I didn't want to believe it. I mean, I'm like, we just got married. It couldn't be true.
Yeah.
Turns out that the normal knock you see in movies, came to my front door. I was not home. But yeah, really. Gosh, where were you at then?
I was at another house. Micah hadn't changed our address. He went to our old house and knocked on the door, and it was a mess, but yeah.
Oh my gosh. It is a mess. Luckily, I don't know if it's luckily for my aunt, but she had moved in with us to kind of help pay a little rent while he was gone. We were so young, we needed money. So she answered the door, and they said, "Is Miss Johnson home? We need to talk to her." And she just said, "Did Daniel die?" And they said, "Yes, we need to find her." So my aunt called my parents. My parents found me. is kind of how that thing worked out. To this day, I wish I was the one that answered the door. I hate that my dad
Yeah.
had to tell me that my husband was killed.
Mm,
That was my job, my responsibility to hear that. It was my responsibility
mm,
to open the door, and I hate that someone else had to receive that news. And being a parent now, I hate that my parents had to deliver that news. That's,
yeah.
you're
That's
telling your
a
child
script
essentially their,
right there. I hadn't
yeah.
thought about that. That'd be horrible.
And he did it so well. I give my parents so much credit for this entire situation. And yeah, I went home to our condo that we shared together, and there was the military who started the whole, on behalf of the United States Air Force, and I just kind of went into a fog at that point, and I think stopped listening, to be honest. And then we just started the planning and the whirlwind of what is a military funeral. I'm not sure about law force funerals and how that happens, but
They're
military
crazy.
is
They're like
insane.
state funerals. Yes,
Oh
it's
my
like the
gosh.
president.
Yes, I'm not going to say, no, I was going to say I didn't have much say, but I did. But everything was like, okay, which casket? This one or this one? And I'm like, ah. And,
Yeah.
I was giving press conferences from my house because the media kept trying to get into like my apartment complex and get to me. So I ended up having to just do like a general press release, like, here's what we're putting out. Yeah, he was the first person at this Air Force base to be killed in action. So it was a really big deal for the Air Force Base, and they were amazing. I felt like they were taking care of me. Everything I was their priority. My family was their priority. Dan was their priority. They asked if I wanted to fly to Dover Air Force Base to receive Dan's body, and I didn't. I didn't want to get on an airplane from California and fly. I couldn't imagine just, what was I going to do? Listen to an audiobook while I flew for 5 hours? Like, I couldn't picture that for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't in my journey. I couldn't do it. So they let me pick whoever I wanted in the military, in the Air Force, in his group to go be Dan's escort. And I picked a really sweet friend of ours named Jason. And Jason went and brought Dan home to me and received his body for me. And yeah, it was crazy.
Such sacred ground. Wow.
Yeah. And I felt very lucky that I had someone that I trusted enough to do that. I mean, I had just married into the military 4 months ago. I did not know what I was doing. So having someone to choose.
I have a little bit of dark humor. May I use dark humor?
I love dark humor. It's my favorite.
I tease that, like, I'm similar to the military. Law enforcement is blood in, blood out.
Okay, I like that.
Right? That they would die for each other, and then they actually do die to get out. Right? Like it's
terrible.
And so, like you said, you'd only been in there for 4 months, but because of the commitment that they make to each other and their willingness to die on behalf of each other, then you're connected to each other on some level. Like, I'll be connected to the 10 people who were at the shooting with Micah for the rest of my life. And I just know that there's just something different there. Yeah.
And that's 100% true. I'm still close to so many people who stepped in and kind of carried me through this journey, because it's one thing to plan a funeral, but to plan a funeral on such a large stage, essentially, where people are watching and people need to be honored a certain way. So we were driving down Broadway in my hometown, and people are holding signs up, and strangers that I've never seen before. And it's just,
it's a trip.
The breadth of the whole thing blew my mind and my family's mind.
Same. Yeah. Same.
So that was a 10-day affair, essentially, of planning the funeral. Dan's family, I flew them in with, you get a death gratuity. It's a big old chunk of money you get for that situation. So I flew all of his family, and they were Midwesters. So Illinois, Minnesota, Chicago, they all came out to California. And, we spent 10 days talking about Dan and laughing and crying and staring at each other and drinking a little here and there, and especially the Air Force guys. Like, it's just my house, like the zone for 10 days, like the hangout spot. And
it's brutal and it's beautiful.
Oh my gosh. I was just going to say, I found it oddly beautiful. And it's some of my favorite days when I look back on, which sounds so bizarre, but being surrounded by
probably the people who haven't lost someone, but I get it. Yeah.
But it's just, he was on everyone's mind, and he wasn't perfect. So we were not all sitting around singing his praises. We were telling jokes. The Air Force guys were making fun of him. It just felt very authentic and very healing, I think, for everybody.
Tell me a little bit about, just so, we talk about that a lot of times people are very attentive until the service, and then it's kind of like they fade away. I think that's a little bit less in military and law enforcement because, the never forget culture, and
Right,
they
right.
really do a good job of remembering them. But, I felt like for myself, some of the darkest days started coming like 6 months after he was gone. Like some of that
Mm-hmm.
shock had worn off, and it was terrifying to me because I thought, when the bottom dropped out when he died, I couldn't imagine it getting worse, but it did get
Mm-hmm.
worse. And I just wonder, what was some of that deep grief like for you?
It was deep and it was dark and it didn't come right away. It did in the essence of like the initial shock. And then I think I kind of went into a mode of shock for like 3 months where I stopped my job for 3 months and I just kind of processed. And I feel like right when I went back to work is when it hit. And when I was like, my world is over, it's gone, it flipped upside down. I really fell into a depression essentially. And it was really hard because those people that were there were still there, but not in the capacity that week or two leading up, they were there. They all get busy again. Everyone returns to their families. People who flew in went home, and I was left with an empty bed and a condo where we decorated together months before. And it was dark. It's hard to describe kind of what that was like. It just felt very heavy. There was days I didn't get a bed. There was days we were people of the faith, but I drank a lot. I'm not going to lie. I drank a lot of alcohol because I just didn't want to go to bed at night. I was fine during the day. Yeah. At night, I just didn't want to be there by myself.
The nights are bad.
Especially when all your girlfriends come around you and then everyone goes home to their husbands and it's just me.
Yep.
And I drank a lot and I went out too much, and I don't regret that because I think that was just my process in that moment. But it was dark. You had children when your husband passed, correct?
They got me out of bed. Yeah, they got me out of bed. I mean, it was still ugly, but I would have stayed in bed a lot more.
You had someone else to get up for, and I didn't. And I've had some people be like, thank goodness you didn't have kids. And then some people be like, don't you wish you had kids with him? And I'm like, it goes both ways because I got to be so selfish and I got to just prioritize my needs because that is all I had the capacity to do. So the fact that you got yourself out of bed and functioned for your children blows my mind. And I give you huge respect for that because I don't know I could have done that. I had a cat.
They
as
kept
long as
me
I cleaned
alive.
that litter box
Really?
and
That cat.
that's all I had.
I mean, in some ways they saved my life because I did not want to stay on this planet. And I was like, I will not leave my children without parents. Like they've already lost their dad. And so in some ways, their presence saved my life, but oh gosh, it was awful. Yeah.
A big thing for me was my family. When Dan died, I met him in my hometown. So I had my brother a mile one way, my sister a mile the other, and my parents half a mile away. Without my family and my girlfriends, I would not have made it. They showed up. I had one nephew at the time who is my lifesaver. His name is Grayson. And he was my reason. He wasn't my child, but he got me out of bed. And if I didn't have my family and my faith during those times, I mean, I see how people make really terrible choices in their lives, to be honest. And I'm sure you could also agree. And they are what kept
like
me from
no
doing
judgment.
that.
Like I live in a glass house and I don't throw rocks. Like I get it. It brings out some really scary things that you don't realize are in you until you are in that much pain.
And I mean, I had no kids. I was about ready. I'm going to go see my husband. Like I was ready to go, and I didn't plan. I didn't do anything like that. I started therapy, which was huge and saved my life with a really amazing therapist just to process all the feelings that come with a loss that's sudden. And I didn't, I had met a lot of really wonderful people the day Dan died. A lot of the people that I hadn't known that were his coworkers showed up that day to hug me. I remember standing in a line and just like hug, next, hug. And I hugged one person I had never met before. And I was like, something in me was like, I feel safe. I feel a little bit safe on this terrible day. And I'm married to him now. And it was just, I feel like it was God giving me someone to be like, you're not alone. We're going to give you someone to kind of get you through this. We had no idea it was going to turn into a marriage and children, but it was just, yeah, it was a friendship that started the day he passed away, and forged into a really beautiful friendship, and obviously a relationship farther down the road. And yeah, I think without that friendship, I also would not have survived.
I love that. Okay, so then you get another cancer diagnosis in 2011. Rude.
Yes, I do.
Like,
rude. So rude. I was upset. So he passed away in October of 2010. I went back to work January, and I tried to work for a few months, and I hated it. My work required that I not cry as much. I hate to say that. And at that point, I put in my 2-week notice. I'm like, that's not going to happen. And they wanted me there more.
They like told you like you can't cry?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So I said, this is not worth it.
How could they have handled that better? Like, I think people need to hear that. Like, so you've got, someone who's grieving and they're trying to come back to work and they need to work in order to survive. I can understand kind of from their perspective of like, how are we going to function if you're actively grieving while you're working?
Sure.
But like, can you give them, if you could go back and tell them something, what would it be?
Open and honest communication. Open and honest communication, which I had, and you understand all too well, like the platitudes that you get, like, we're so sorry for your loss, but do you have the calendar for next year for the kids programs? And I'm like, oh, okay. So it was like an all or nothing. And I wanted open communication where I could be like, I'm really struggling right now. Can I take an extra 30 minutes at lunch and just kind of gather myself? I don't feel like I had that line of communication between my job and me. And I was all about the communication. I always have been. I didn't feel safe maybe in that space to just be able to share my struggling moments with them.
Well, and you're so young, right? Like these are skills that we learn over time.
Sure. So that was really tough. I hated leaving that job, but I also knew I was not in the mindset to go back to work. I needed to go discover what my life was going to be. And I wanted to start fresh, and I was going to travel. And I booked a South African safari. I bought the tickets and all that stuff. Okay. And then April, I quit my job in April. So I'm sorry, went back in January, worked until April, quit it the day before my birthday. I was like, I'm out. I'm going to go celebrate. And I was re-diagnosed on June 5th, just because of a routine scan. So June 5th, 2009.
Same kind of cancer or a new cancer?
Same kind of cancer in the exact same spot. So the surgery that they did must have left behind some cells that weren't visible, and they continued to divide and conquer, essentially. And they did. But I was actually diagnosed June 5th of 2009 was my first diagnosis. So Daniel and I decided to get married June 5th, 2010, because we were like, let's replace that terrible day with our wedding date. And then I was diagnosed again June 5th and 11. All the same date. So that was crazy to me and felt like a stab in the back. Like I replaced it with my wedding day, and you're going to just bring it back with another diagnosis. So I'm very bittersweet with June 5th now. I don't know how I feel about it. Sometimes I love it. Sometimes I hate it. And this one was bad. This one was aggressive cancer. This one was throw the kitchen sink at me to, we got to treat this. I lost my hair. I lost over 70 pounds. I was on death's door, pretty darn close, to the point where I went to my parents' house one day to just die. I'm like, I don't want to die alone in my condo, so I'm going to go to mom and dad's.
It's not funny, but
no, it's a little funny.
Humor.
It's okay. Yeah, dark humor. They can take care of me. I don't need to do this by myself. So yeah, I went to my parents that night, and they rushed me to the doctor the next morning. They're like, this is not okay. She looks awful. We got to do this. Ended up in between that time frame of diagnosis, I went to UCLA for surgery. It was like, you're inoperable. You need to go home and enjoy the time you have left on this planet. And I said, no, thank you. I'm not okay with that answer, but goodbye. I didn't want to be there anymore. And we started looking for second opinions, because this tumor was sitting right on my aortic valve that pumps blood to my heart. So no one wanted to mess with that area. So I went to Stanford for second opinion and met a really wonderful surgeon. And he basically said, I'm willing to attempt your surgery. I had done all the cancer. I'd done the chemo. I'd done the radiation. And he said, I'll attempt your surgery, but it's not great odds. So you need to go home and think about if this surgery is something you want. And he said, there's a 33% chance you'll pass away. I will nick your vein or your artery and you will bleed out. There's a 33% chance you're going to be just fine. Miracle. There's a 33% chance that you will end up with like a colostomy bag essentially, and I'll lose my small intestines. And I went home and I decided I don't want the surgery and I just want to live the time that I have left. And my parents were like, no, that is not acceptable to our family. So I prayed and I talked to everyone in my life. And then I came to the decision I wanted to try the surgery. So on September 12th, 2012, I went to Stanford for an extremely dangerous surgery, and I woke up and I was 33% chance miracle. He did the job and he saved my life. And that was huge for me. Yeah. And for my whole family. Absolutely. It was a blessing. It was a miracle. It was everything we could have hoped for. And I really felt Daniel in those moments. Every time I go under anesthesia to this day, I picture him. And I pray and I talk to him, and I really felt him during that surgery and during that battle. I mean, my pillowcase was his work shirt just pulled over the pillowcase, and I brought it to every doctor's appointment and every surgery. And
I love that.
I felt like he was there. And I did the surgery, and it was amazing. And they got it out, and it was a huge, huge success. And we were beyond grateful.
So did that allow the cancer to go into remission? Like that was kind of the thing that was holding it in place was the tumor?
It went into remission. Okay. Unfortunately, they had to remove 2/3 of my small intestine during that surgery. So everything became a challenge. Food. If I would eat breakfast, it would be out of me in 30 minutes. Like I was not holding nutrients because it was just really bad. So I didn't have time in my system to collect the calories, collect the vitamins. So I ended up having to wear a backpack, a PICC line on my arm that had formula in it. And I would just walk around with my backpack, and I was doing 2,000 calories a day pumped in system. And I hit rock bottom for sure during that recovery. It was terrible. I was in the emergency room constantly just because I was so sick. And then I slowly started healing, and it was slow and long and painful, but I got there. And it was a huge blessing. It was a miracle. That was going to be my ending. I thought, I'm coming, babe. I'm coming to you. I thought Dan and I were going to be reunited real fast. The day before my surgery, I left a huge book on my bed, and it was my will, and it was my where I want my belongings to go. I had seen a lawyer. I prepared to not come out of that surgery.
Which is wise. It's not dark. Especially like once you've lost someone, it's good to prepare. It is kind to the people who will come behind you to prepare. Yeah.
And that was what I thought. I just got a crap ton of money from life insurance. I haven't touched anything because I've been so sick. That's not true. I bought a $60,000 Audi, and I called it my Widowmobile, and it was a horrible choice, but it was my favorite car. It was my grief moment. I had to do it. Did you buy anything? Did you do anything?
I bought a new house. I went to Europe. Yeah. I mean, like our whole life changed. So I needed a lot of things. I'm trying to think. I definitely was freer financially than I had been before, and be like, hey, Micah died. You know, what you gonna do? We did
got to pull that card every now and then.
We did find some solace, you know, in some of those things, in activities, in vacations, in opportunities, you know, that we couldn't have afforded before he passed away. So I love that you called it your Widowmobile. I actually bought a new car too. It was a minivan, so it wasn't
different,
not as sexy. Cost about the same is what you just said. But
I'm sure.
I'm still driving it around today. So
oh my gosh, yeah. I went to Santa Barbara, an hour away, and I just paid in cash for this car. And I'm like, Dan would want me to have this car. That's what I kept whatever I had to tell myself, I guess.
Hey, I no shame, no judgment. You had the money, you paid for it. Like,
so I had to figure out. I gave my Audi to my brother in the will. Like, I had those big decisions that I didn't have kids. I didn't have a husband anymore. But that's how sure I was that things were were going to end. As I was like, I'm saving you all this. I wrote letters to everybody. Wrote a letter to my nephew with like life advice, life that I thought I knew at 25, like, what I could offer in the moment. And yeah, I wrote goodbye letters, and I sat there in my recliner the whole week before the surgery, just saying goodbye to my family via pencil and paper. And it was gut-wrenching.
It is gut-wrenching. I have those in my will, and they hurt so bad to write. But I would kill for them. I would kill for them if Micah had written them. You know what I mean? Like, I know how valuable they are, but like imagining someone reading those letters after your death, it's like...
Oh, I've seen the movies where, a military person comes up and said, this letter, he wanted me to give this to you. I'm like, I didn't get a letter.
Right?
I wanted the letters so bad. I wanted something. And yeah, I didn't get it either. So it sucks. It's definitely one thing where I'm like, come on, babe, you could have said goodbye.
No, I wish I had more video of Micah, the ones that I have of him moving and his voice. And those are just really special.
And I have very few. I'm going on 14 years. It's like cell phones. That's not how it was back then, and I wish it was.
Well, Micah avoided it.
Men.
Yeah, like the plague. Yeah. Like he just, he didn't have social media. He was always working. Like, so, I mean, it makes sense why we were like not techie people. So we didn't have like really nice phones, Yeah. And so our little Android potato phones, like the video quality on them was not anything to be excited about.
Weren't really saving great memories at that time.
Nope.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'm like, man, I wish I had more of those. The moving, the talking, the hearing his voice that I have very few of. But when I see him, it's like I have a card that he recorded for me when I open. And I know one day that card will no longer play the cute little message. But yeah, all that stuff is just crazy to think about. And it's in my Dan box. And I had sent him a bunch of care packages that our poor mailman had to bring back to me, knowing my whole neighborhood, my whole community knew that Dan had died. So the mailman would come with just like a box and he would like offer it to me. And it was a care package I had sent Dan that got returned because Dan was dead. And I'm like, it's okay, buddy. Bring it over. Yeah.
And I
things
mean,
you don't
but
really
like
think about.
You don't think about that. Like I remember like the doctor's office, when you do the paperwork and they want to know what your marital status is. And the first time I had to write widow, and I was like, so like trying not to sob at the doctor's office, like, screw you for making me write this down. Like stuff
I
you would just never expect.
When I went to UCLA for the botched surgery that they couldn't fix me, I yelled at them because there was not a widow box. It was just married, unmarried, or single. And I said, I'm my own
single.
Widow box.
Yeah,
no, I made a square and wrote widow, and I checked it. I'm like, that's it. So yeah, it's those moments that you're like, it just hits you and you don't expect it. And the poor mailman bringing me back those packages, those cards, the homemade cookies that he never received it was really hard. That was tough.
Kristen, I can tell we totally need to do another episode, but we're short on time. And so I'm going to ask you, like, you recently have been diagnosed with cancer again.
Yes.
You're like actively taking the pill from chemotherapy. Yes. I think that something that I try to talk about and support people is when there's no bow, there's no happy ending. Like getting remarried didn't solve it. It didn't take away your grief. You don't love Dan less because, now you're remarried or what. Like there's so many ongoing complications of grief, and you're in some form of the valley right now, walking through more disease and illness. And so what would you say to people who can really relate to kind of chronic trauma, ongoing heartache, feeling like, when is this going to end? Is it going to end? How am I going to survive this? What do you say to those people?
For me, it's been one day at a time. And it's kind of a mantra, like the sun will shine again. And it sounds so cliche and it sounds so corny, but it is such a truth. Some of the darkest days of mine have been followed with some of the most beautiful days. And if I gave up in those darkest days, I wouldn't have had those really beautiful days. And I just continue to tell myself, like, one foot in front of the other, just to keep going. This valley is dark. This is cancer with kids, which wasn't the case the first 2 times I had it. And picturing leaving them is something I literally can't let my brain go down that road because it will spin and spiral. So I just have to take it day by day, and there will be the sun shine again. And that's all I can tell anyone who's listening or struggling is the sun will shine again. and just hang in there, because
Yeah.
you and I both know the sun comes back out and it gets dark again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a never ending cycle.
I call those like my mantras. And I think that when you're in the foxhole, when you're in the valley, you need some really simple core truths that you can say to yourself. And I had something similar where I was like, this day will end. The pain that I'm in right now, this day has to end. Like no day, lasts forever. Tomorrow is a new day. I mean, I had a couple like scriptural ones, like the house built on the rock stood firm, like imagining that storm coming and knowing where my strength and my truth, where they lied. But like, it couldn't be complex. Like, I think that that's a really good point of it couldn't be
simple
like
and
this
sweet.
simple and sweet, just cling to it, one foot in front of the other. The sun will rise again. The sun will rise again. And I think that having very simple core truths is like one of the ways you can hang on.
Yeah. In regards to cancer, I just I've beat it before 3 times and I'll do it again. Like I just have to have faith that my body knows how to beat this. My body responds well to this, and my body it's in survival mode, but it's been there before and it will get on the other side of it.
Is this the same kind of cancer or is this different?
All 4 times. All the same cancer.
Gosh.
Yeah. Liposarcoma. For those elderly
Are you like a study
Black gentlemen.
I know. Are you like a study subject of like why you are having this?
And I have been at both Stanford and UCLA, and I've been put on tumor boards, and this is the way they told me, in this poetic, beautiful way. They said, imagine a dandelion that someone picked up, and the dandelion is cancer, and they blew it into your abdomen. And they pretty much said, for the rest of my life, those little seedlings are going to pop up in the form of tumors. And this is something I will probably do again and again. And it is horrifying to think about, because
wow,
I want to not have cancer.
Wow.
I want to not be the widow. I'm proud to be the widow, but I want to just
you don't want that to be your identity. You don't want to be the girl with cancer. You don't want to be the sad story.
Cancer. Yeah. That's me.
Yeah.
My brother said, you're like a D-list Santa Maria celebrity because of all you've been through. People like know, and they're like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. Like becoming well known for the worst things ever. Yeah. That is relatable for sure.
It's not what I want to be known for.
Closer to when Micah died, I was shopping at Costco, and the lady just like reached over the belt, and was like, oh my gosh, so kind. But I was like,
yes.
I used to be able to shop at Costco without people crying with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it it's a totally,
it becomes who you are.
Different. But you also now have been so faithful and consistent and courageous. Courage is bravery in the face of fear, that you are someone that people can look to and know and be like, you know what? Her worst day didn't kill her. And so mine doesn't have to either.
Yeah. And that's all our message can be, yours, mine, and anyone else, is you will be in the valley. It will be dark. You think the sun won't shine again, but it will. And if I can be a light to that, and you can be a light to that, and, anyone else, I think that's the best thing we can do.
I love that. Kristen, I know people are going to want to connect with you more and follow along with your story. Where can they find you?
Sure. Instagram, just at The Resilient Widow, all one word. Same thing on TikTok, but whether that goes away or not. But yeah, The Resilient Widow on Instagram is where I'm at the most, for sure. Daily updates and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being willing to do this. And I'd love to have you on again in the future. I think there's just so many more blessings and richness that you have to offer people from what you've walked through, and, blending a family, and just so many complexities in your story that you have to offer. And so I would love to have you back.
And I would love to come back.
Friends, thank you so much for joining us on this week of the Hopecast. I hope that Kristen's story has encouraged you, and especially if you know any Gold Star families, line of duty widows that would benefit from feeling seen in this conversation and just knowing that they're not alone. Would you share this episode with them? That's how we continue to spread the message of inspiration and hope. And friends, if you would like to help me with the ongoing production costs of the the Hopecast. You can find me at buymeacoffee.com/Rachael Flick, and a gift as low as $5 is a huge help. Friends, thank you so much. See you on the next episode of the Hopecast.
You've been listening to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. To find out more, go to rachelflick.com. While you're there, you can book Rachael for your next speaking engagement. Her inspiring message will be sure to engage and touch the heart of your audience at your next conference, church event, or business function. Go to rachelflick.com to book her today. While you're online, you can discover more information about all of the platforms that this podcast is on. Also, be sure to click on the social media icons at the top of the page, and you will be directed to Rachael's social media sites. If you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate if you would subscribe and leave us a review. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time for another edition of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.